Economic inequality in the United States has reached historic highs, with the top 1% of households holding nearly 32% of the nation's wealth in 2021, while the bottom 50% held just 2.5%, has sparked renewed debate over whether increasing taxes on the wealthy could reduce inequality and improve living standards. But let's look at the historical context of U.S. tax policies and inequality. From the end of World War II to the late 1960s, the U.S. experienced a period of relative economic equality, often referred to as the Great Compression. During this time, the portion of a taxpayer's income that falls within the highest tax bracket, or the top marginal income tax rates, were as high as 91% in 1962, and corporate tax rates peaked at 52.8%. These high rates coincided with strong economic growth, low unemployment, and a burgeoning middle class. Government policies, including progressive taxation, strong unionization, and robust social programs like Social Security, contributed to this era of shared prosperity. Economist Paul Krugman attributes this compression to policies that redistributed income, creating a more equitable income distribution. However, this period was not without challenges. High tax rates were partially offset by deductions and loopholes, meaning effective tax rates were lower than statutory rates. Still, the tax system was significantly more progressive, and the wealth share of the top 1% remained relatively stable, fluctuating around 22 to 25% during the 1950s and 1960s. Since the 1980s, U.S. tax policy has shifted dramatically toward lower taxes for the wealthy. The Economic Recovery Tax Act of 1981 under President Ronald Reagan reduced the top marginal income tax rate from 70% to 50%, and subsequent reforms, including the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, TCJA of 2017, further lowered it to 37%. Corporate tax rates also fell from 46% in the 1980s to 21% under the TCJA. These changes disproportionately benefited the rich, with the top 1% receiving an average tax break of $570,000 from 2003 to 2011 following the Bush-era tax cuts. This shift coincided with a sharp increase in income and wealth inequality. The Congressional Budget Office, CBO, reports that between 1979 and 2019, the share of pre-tax income held by the top fifth of households rose from 46% to 55%, while after-tax inequality also increased, albeit less dramatically due to progressive federal taxes. Economists Emmanuel Saez and Gabriel Zuckman note that in 2018, the top 400 households paid a lower effective tax rate than the middle class, a historic reversal driven by tax cuts and loopholes. The trickle-down theory, which posits that tax cuts for the wealthy stimulate investment and job creation, has been widely discredited. A 2020 study by the London School of Economics analyzing 18 OECD countries from 1965 to 2015 found that major tax cuts for the rich increased income inequality without boosting economic growth or reducing unemployment. In the U.S., the TCJA failed to deliver promised wage increases or significant investment growth, with much of the corporate tax savings used for stock buybacks. Other developed nations offer valuable lessons on taxing the wealthy. OECD data from 2010 show that while the U.S. has a relatively progressive federal tax system, it does less to reduce income inequality through taxes and transfers compared to most OECD peers, except South Korea. Countries like Sweden, Denmark, and Germany employ higher tax rates on high incomes and wealth, coupled with robust social spending, to achieve lower Gini coefficients, a measure of inequality where 0 is perfect equality and 1 is perfect inequality. For example, Sweden's top marginal income tax rate is around 57%, and its welfare state significantly reduces after-tax inequality. France's wealth tax, in place until 2018, targeted assets above 1.3 million euros, raising modest revenue but contributing to social cohesion. However, it faced challenges with capital flight, as some wealthy individuals relocated to avoid taxation. This highlights a key trade-off. While progressive taxes can reduce inequality, they must be carefully designed to minimize evasion and economic distortion. In developing economies like China, policies that increase income inequality can sometimes boost growth by concentrating savings for investment. However, in advanced economies like the U.S., where savings are not a constraint, such policies often lead to higher debt or slower growth. This suggests that the U.S. context, marked by high baseline inequality and ample capital, may not benefit from further tax cuts for the rich but could gain from redistributive policies.